We're rolling.
Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast.
The Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 106, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Koth.
And I'm Jack Haas.
And here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. So let's get into some real estate investing.
Well, let's talk about a flip of the coin. Buy low, sell high. There's only one thing you can control.
Yeah, that's the old saying, right? Buy low, sell high. It's true for stocks. It's true for anything where you're trying to make a profit. And in real estate specifically, it holds true. Buy low, sell high. But it's actually should be called buy low, sell at whatever the market is. And you can't dictate what that is, whether it's high or not. So really all you have to do is buy lower than the market average.
That rolls off the tongue.
Yep. Will that fit on a t-shirt? But, people get confused because they think, okay, buy low. Okay, I get that. Sell high. Yep, going to do that. But really, we don't want to trick people or give them the false sense that they have any effect on that sale price, because really you don't. The market will determine what your sale price is. And the best you can hope to do is hit that sale price. Usually any actions you take are either you're going to be under that sale price or you're going to be at it. But you're typically not going to be able to go over what the average is for the comps in your neighborhood for similar houses. And it's a trap that investors fall into sometimes. And we're going to kind of talk about how that happens and what you can do to avoid it.
Yeah, I think your person probably has heard the old saying, you make your money on your buy too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of truth to that. So let's start with your analogy here that it's like a tidal wave.
Yeah, the market is just a big gorilla beast that does what it wants to you, right? You can't fight the giant tidal wave. That's kind of how I picture it. And we use this technique when we're talking to sellers too. We say, look, we don't determine if we buy this house, what we're going to be able to sell it for. The market is out there. It's this giant, irresistible force that sets prices. And really it does. I mean, you're at the mercy of what the market is doing. And, if you live in a market that goes up and down by large margins, that can be kind of scary. Luckily, here in the upper Midwest, we live in a pretty slow and steady appreciating type of market, which makes this analogy even more true. The price is going to be what it's going to be, and all you can do is hope to sell at that price. But you're not going to be able to push past it very much. If you are, it's just going to be a tiny amount, and you definitely shouldn't build that into your plan. That you need to sell higher than the neighborhood average. If you're counting on that, you're going to be in a tough spot.
Yeah, so what can be done about it? First of all, it's that whole thing about making sure that you stick to your numbers and get that place at the right price at the right time.
Right, and it's all about knowing your exit strategy. So if you're going to do a flip, let's say just as an example, well, the end sale price, when it's fixed up and ready to hit the market, that's going to be where all your calculations begin. So when you're determining what the ARV is, the after repair value, or your sale price, you need to get accurate comps on what similar properties have sold for in recent time. And if you do that well and accurately, then you can start from there, and then all your calculations should work backwards from there. What you shouldn't do, and I'll just describe a scenario here that I was aware of some other local flippers. I don't know them personally, but I saw this property and I could kind of deduce what had happened based on some conditions. So there's a street that we actually purchased a house on as a rental. It's kind of a mixed use. It's one of those streets where, you have like a auto repair shop and then a house and then another shop and a couple more houses. It's kind of mixed residential and commercial kind of use, and it's not super attractive as far as families purchasing homes. It's a decent rental area. And I saw a house listed for $300,000, and it caught my eye because I've never seen a house listed for even half of that. Typically, most of the houses on that block are $150,000 houses or less. So when I saw this house for $300,000, I thought, wow, okay, what's going on here? So I did some investigating, looked at the pictures. Obviously, somebody had bought it as a flip. Looked really nice. Great job. They did a great job rehabbing the house. But the thing is, no matter how perfectly you make everything in that house, you're never going to sell it for double the average price on that block. And if they bought it for 150 and put 100 into it, they were hoping to make 50 grand, right? Well, it's just not going to happen. And you can't back your way into the sales price based on what you paid and what you rehabbed it for, what it cost you to rehab the property. That is a recipe for failure. So I'm guessing what they did is they bought it, over-rehabbed it, spent way more than they thought they were going to, and then they said, well, now we have to sell it for X amount. But the thing is, even if you need to sell it for $300,000, if the market norm on your block is 150, it's never going to happen. And that's a tough pill to swallow if it happens to you.
Yeah, and we've been there a couple times. We joke about the concept of unraveling the sweater. There's always rehab creep, and there's always going to be, as soon as you start pulling on that string, next thing you know, you're without your sweater. But when you go into there, you got to define your scope of work and really stick to it.
And build in a buffer, because after you do enough flips or rehabs, you realize that it always costs more and takes longer, right? So your carrying costs, your holding costs are all more than you planned on. The rehab typically ends up costing you more. So you do have to build a buffer in. And really, but still, the whole point of this episode is, where your starting point is for your calculations. So if it's a flip, you have to start with that sale price. And in the buy low, sell high conversation, you can only control one of those. So you have to, the market will determine what the sale price is, and you have to work backwards from that down to your purchase price with sufficient buffers built in. And if you go the other way, you say, well, I bought this house for X amount. I'm going to put X amount into it, and now I need to make a profit and sell it for X amount. That's not going to work, because if that number doesn't happen to be within the neighborhood average, it's going to be very, very tough. Probably impossible, honestly.
So where do you find this type of information? I mean, we talk about comps in the past and where, how important they are. One of the places that we typically check is, that dreaded Zillow. Mm-hmm. That site does provide a pretty good snapshot, and you can go into the menu and select properties in that neighborhood that have sold. You don't want to see things that are being sold now, which does help a little bit, but it's those sold numbers that you really want. And if you have a hard time doing that, that goes back to building that team of yours and finding a realtor that can help you with that information. They do have quite a bit of information at the tip, right at the tip of their fingers, going through the MLS listings. And they can get you a good idea of what that property could sell for and give you that information pretty quickly.
Yeah, one of the main things that realtors do is run comps on properties. That's one of their main jobs. So it's something that every realtor should be able to do very quickly. And, it's nice to build a relationship with a realtor that can do that for you. And, we try to kind of scratch each other's back. If somebody does that work for us, they're more likely that they're going to get that listing for us too. So they're not doing this work free of charge. They know that there's going to be a payoff for them at the end, typically in the form of a listing if we list on the MLS. So, you got to do some give and take there, and some reciprocity at work there. But you need to know, like you mentioned, you can use Zillow to kind of get a baseline and get started. But you do want to run some true MLS comps that are true comps too, because realtors are good at matching the number of bedrooms, the square footage, the type of house, whether the neighborhood changes on one street or not, because it's crazy how quickly a neighborhood can change. You cross one street and it's completely different prices. So realtors, if they do this a lot and they're experienced, they're going to have a good sense of what a true comp is compared to your subject property. So use their experience, use their knowledge to help you really establish your ARV.
Well, is there anything else we need to cover on that?
One thing, too, when you're looking at houses, the price per square foot can kind of trick people sometimes. they think, oh, average houses are X amount per square foot. Well, mine has a lot of square footage, so therefore it's going to be X amount. Well, again, if that square footage calculation puts you way past your neighborhood average sale price for a house, you're not going to probably make that back, even if you're doing an addition or, you just happen to have a fairly big house. You still need to be within a certain range of the neighborhood average. And remember, you're not going to be able to change that price, even if you don't want to get into a situation where you're having to justify a higher price and force your way into it. That's a bad situation to be in.
Well, when you're talking about justifying things, that's that whole unraveling the sweater again. So make sure to focus on those high impact, low cost actions first. And what's the sad state of affairs when you're flipping houses is that next thing you know, you're putting up tile in the bathroom.
What's wrong with that?
I was just reliving or thinking of one of our flips.
Oh, yes. Right. Yeah, you got to, and that's all gets into rehabbing and, what the best return for your money is. But basically, the entire calculation starts at the sale price. And remember, you can't change that. That's determined by the market. And the sooner you realize that and just kind of give in to that, the better off you're going to be. So even in that buy low, sell high conversation, remember, you only have control of one of those factors, and that's where you buy the property at. So use all your skills to buy at a deeper discount, and you're going to be much better off.
You're at the mercy of the market.
Yep, exactly.
So we put a lot of effort into putting this content together, and if you found any value, please support us at patreon.com/REIRookies.
Shoot us an email at info@reirookies.com. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter @REIRookies. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other rookie investors out there find the show.
Remember, get off the bench.
And get into the game. We'll see you next time. This episode is brought to you by FargoTurnkey.com. Do you live in a good cash-flowing market? If so, Turnkey isn't the best choice for you. You should buy in your market. If you don't live in a great market for investors, where can you find profitable cash-flowing properties? We love the Midwest, where prices are reasonable and the people are great. Ever heard of North Dakota Nice or see the movie Fargo? That's where we live. We personally invest here and have lived here all of our lives. How does Turnkey work? We find the property, we rehab the property, we find you a tenant and place you under the care of our local property manager, who we trust with all our own investment properties. I'm sure you have questions about how the process works and what to do next. If that's the case, fill out the form on FargoTurnkey.com and we'll reach out to see if you are a good fit for our business. We have a limited supply of properties every month, so we can sell only to a few qualified buyers. See you at FargoTurnkey.com.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.